Must scream TV. The president yelling at Americans for over an hour during one of the most hyper-partisan State of the Unions. President Biden's lack of leadership was on full display in a speech designed to please his base of MSNBC flunkies and not the American people. Joe unleashing a fire hose of lies about the economy, inflation, and taxes, and still we don't know what his vision for a second term is. But we do know who he passionately hates, Donald Trump.
My predecessor and some of you here seek to bury the truth about January 6th. I will not do that. Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, do whatever the hell you want. Predecessor. My predecessor. But unlike my predecessor, I know who we are as Americans.
Americans' biggest issue, of course, with Biden is that he's not mentally fit for the job. But the big guy tried to brush off those concerns by joking about it.
I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation.
And in one of the most shocking moments, a Gold Star dad getting arrested for heckling Joe Biden after reminding the president of his disgraceful exit from Afghanistan.
Year before I took office, murder rates went up 30%. 30% they went up.
That man is the father of a U.S. Marine killed in the 2021 Kabul airport bombing during Biden's botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. You know, I'm gonna start with that, Greg, and I'm gonna go right to you. So, you know, you have a Gold Star father, and one of the Gold Star parents was on one of the other shows this week, said she had never heard from President Biden. The families have not heard from President Biden. And, you know, their sacrifices are not remembered. They are literally sitting ducks in an open-air airport in Afghanistan. And they arrest this guy. He's charged with a misdemeanor.
Well, you have to understand there are priorities, Judge, when you're doing a speech, and the amount of potato chips in your bag is way important than the deaths that occurred in Afghanistan, according to this administration. I'm going to go out and say that Joe Biden surpassed expectations. How did he do that? Well, if you're ranking him against other leaders and other politicians and other speeches, that's not what people are doing. They're ranking him against himself. So by that metric, you know, he did better than the very lowest standard possible, his own competence. He's grading on the curve of his own abysmal performances. It's kind of like being relieved that your car starts in the morning when it didn't start for a year.
His testimony proved that Biden, for 40 years, spread classified documents across 3 states in 6 unsecured locations after being warned repeatedly.
Mr. Hur, classified documents were found at the Penn Biden Center?
That's correct.
They were found in President Biden's garage?
In Wilmington, Delaware, yes.
And in his basement den?
Also in the same home, yes.
In his main floor office?
Correct.
And his 3rd floor den?
Correct.
At the University of Delaware?
Correct.
And at the Biden Institute?
Correct.
Is it accurate to quote your report that classified documents were found in, quote, badly damaged boxes in his garage near a collapsed dog crate, a dog bed, a Zappos box, and an empty bucket? Is that correct?
Those words do appear in the report.
Biden even told her his garage was such a mess, he moved boxes around himself. So his Corvette had more room. The president admitted, there was a kid who used to help me take care of my Corvette, but didn't work for me. So besides Hunter and his Chinese assistant zipping in and out of Biden's garage, there were kids working on Biden's cars. And Primetime can conclusively report tonight that mysterious mechanics and spies did not, I repeat, did not have full access to Trump's documents in Mar-a-Lago for decades.
Make of what you've seen so far.
Well, Britt Hume gave me some advice. He said, Jesse, don't make any more predictions. So I won't be making any more predictions ever. And with Dana's permission, I'd like to make an analogy. Donald Trump is like political helium. He keeps rising and rising and rising. But he's also combustible. and everyone's worried about when's he going to pop. Is it going to be sabotage, prosecutors, his big mouth? But so far, he's risen above DeSantis, Haley, and he's been beating the pants off of Biden in the polls since Halloween. And there's a few reasons. One is because American people don't like dirty cops. And Joe Biden's gang of lawyers jumped Donald Trump. It was 6-on-1. They're kicking him, hitting him with raids, with fines, with mug shots. And Americans don't like that. They want to see a fair fight. We can sense that kind of injustice. And the American people have been impressed with how Donald Trump's not only held his own, but has given it right back to him. So his strength has been impressive. People are coming willingly because if you policy, the contrast is so stark compared to what it was a couple of years ago. I just went out to get Jesse Jr. a birthday present. I wanted to get him a play gym. And I looked at the price tag of the play gym, Brett, and I passed out. And when they picked me up off the floor, they said plastic and lumber prices have tripled in the last couple of years. So now I'm basically paying for a second home to put in my backyard. And all it has is a slide and a swing set. And I'm just going to maybe just buy him a stick and tell him it's magic instead. It's too expensive. It's too dangerous. And the Republican Party is now more unified than the Democratic Party. And the Democrats are the ones on defense, having to answer for Joe Biden, having to answer about the border. They're trying to give the guy advice, and they're trying to tell him he might have to drop out. The Republican Party, for the first time I've seen in many, many years, is not constantly having to defend Trump controversies. And that's unifying the party. And if they can stay unified, I think they have a good shot at winning the White House.
Is there any suggestion that they are genuinely looking for a plan B when they look at the way Trump is rolling up these states and they look at the national polls that we got from New York and New York Times Siena?
There aren't any party elders that can come in and tell Joe it's time to go. Joe is the only party elder left. And you know, you reach a certain age, you're stubborn. You're not going to just do what someone tells you to do. His wife's in it to win it. His son's in it to win it. And he feels like he's been able to beat Donald Trump before, and he'll do it again. You go into someone at that age's house and you try to adjust their thermostat, and it's World War III. Nothing can change. He's decided he's going to stick with it. And if he loses, it's probably better for the Democratic Party to lose with Joe Biden than to switch things out in a chaotic convention, leapfrog Kamala Harris, first black female vice president, and install a straight white male, Gavin Newsom, that could get licked by Trump himself when he could just keep his powder dry for 4 years and run in an open primary.
Well, Jesse, we appreciate the commentary and the use of the 8 o'clock hour.
It's my gift to you, Brett. Don't abuse it.
All right, final predictions for tonight. Is former President Trump going to rack up all these states, 15 in a row? And when do you think he mathematically clinches the nomination? Jesse, you've spent a lot of time talking about the president and his own party having trouble with concerns about his age and mental fitness. He's upside down with independence on the border, on crime, on the economy. And we heard from Michelle Obama's staff today that she officially is not running for president. She is supporting President Biden and Kamala Harris. You've said maybe there's another shoe to drop in the Democratic Party. You still think that's true?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, Brett, because if you read between the lines, she's not saying she wouldn't agree to be drafted at the convention in Chicago, her hometown. She's saying she's not running for president. So there is a chance, and I'm not just saying that to titillate the audience, or maybe I am. But I personally, if I was Michelle Obama, I would not want to go anywhere near the White House. I have a great life, and I wouldn't want Barack telling me what to do.
Well, you know, I think that.
Wow is right, Martha.
Wow is
right.
Wow. That's all I can say, Jesse. Just, you know, wisdom oozing out.